Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is Thursday, February 5th. Welcome to another episode session. I haven't decided what I want to call it, whether it's an episode or a session, but welcome to another time of Let's Talk Power Live and happy Black History Month. I'm thrilled that it's Black History Month, but I don't know what happened to January. I looked up and here we are in February. I sent out an email earlier today and I said, Black History Month is one of my favorite months, but it is always one of promise and peril. I'm reminded of a time when I was asked many, many years ago to give a speech at my church. And one of the questions I raised at that time was, should we end Black History Month? Of course, you can imagine the audience, my fellow parishioners and my family was aghast at the very idea. I said it tongue in cheek because we keep separating Black history from American history. And doing so gives people who are bent on subsuming us as Black Americans into a false understanding and a false narrative of this country's history. And my challenge was, what if we just kept saying it was American history? And we know that to be true, but we also know the import and the significance of ensuring that our unique piece of American history continues to be lifted and continues to be told in real and operational ways. Well, we're here at Black History Month, and I'm excited. Welcome to Let's Talk Power Live. This is a place where we talk about education, but we talk about education through the lens of power. And people ask me all the time, why do you talk about power and education? I talk about power and education because power and education is a real thing, and instructional power is equally as real. We make decisions, those of us who have been in places where we touch the decisions that touch a kid who is not our own every single day. And in that space of authority, you have power. Well, I always also, every week when we come together, give you the definition of power and education. So I'm going to give you that definition right now, and let's see what we got. So, education is the instrument of democratic design, and it is no less the instrument of power, the control of information, the shaping of understanding, and the influence of judgment are critical elements common to democratic design, power theory, and educational philosophy. That's what power holistically in education is all about. Well, I'm going to also give you the definition of instructional power, and here's that definition. Understanding instructional power. Instructional power can be understood as the use of your state, district, and building ascribed job related authority to afford or constrain a student's access to learning. That is what instructional power is all about. It is really looking at the decisions you make, understanding that every single one of them has the opportunity to afford and open access, and it has the opportunity to constrain and hold back that access. So that's what that's all about. And tonight, as we open up our Black History series, our month together, I want to be clear and I want to share something with you. The idea of identity, belonging, mentorship, and community did not begin as a professional learning topic. Particularly for us, it began as our mere survival. And I say mere, but our real survival. We had to make ourselves identity holders of ourselves. We had to determine that we were human because our very existence was criminalized. We weren't even considered persons. So we had to steal our own way of creating identity. We had to be very intentional. We had to be secretive. And then education became our weapon. We use education as a way to secure our identity and our place in the world. And having that conversation brings me to something that's going to make me so excited tonight. I'm thrilled to welcome to our time this evening, co-founder, co-director, author, and community leader, Dr. Daman Harris. He is the co-founder and co-director of the Bond Project out of Maryland, building our network of diversity. So please welcome Dr. Daman Harris to Let's Talk Power Live. Hey, Dr. Daman, how are you tonight?
Hey, Tanji, I'm doing really well. It's good to talk to you and your family here. Let's
Yes.
talk
So,
about
yes, happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month. We
So,
know
you heard
every day is Black History Day, but we know we take them too. That's the
we take a month too. Exactly right.
Mhm.
Right. We are every day. We are everyday Black. There's nothing we can't do. I know that you were brought up saying there's only two things you got to do: stay Black and die. But then the other one they added pay taxes. But here we go. We can't get over the taxes. But I'm
That's
thrilled
a
to
fact.
welcome you tonight so that we can talk about the power in our community. And one, I want you to introduce the Bond Project to our folks here at Let's Talk Power Live. Before we do that, one, if you're a subscriber, thank you so much for being a subscriber to Let's Talk Power Live. If you have yet to make a decision, go ahead and decide tonight. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit all the buttons so that we can continue the conversation. And then go ahead, Damon, tell us what the Bond Project is all about.
The Bond Project is a nonprofit that supports efforts to recruit, retain, develop, and empower Black and Brown men in education. We've been around since right around 2013. We first sort of rolled off the lot in 2014 where we're programming, and we are headquartered in Maryland, but we try to do things that reach as far as we can. So you may find one of us working with a group of folks in Seattle. You may find one of us working with a group of folks in Tennessee. You may find groups of us where you and I saw each other recently out in Accra, Ghana.
The Accra, Ghana.
Doing
Exactly
work.
right. Exactly right.
We're all over the place. We're an all volunteer organization. A lot of what we do is about platform presentation. So we have it's whatever men of color in our membership or in our spheres have been telling us that they want more of or more access to. So our guys said we need a space where we can have our writing displayed. So we have
Mm.
a blog. Guys said we need a podcast to talk our talk, right? So we created a podcast. Guys said we've been getting gate kept from national conferences. So we created our own conference, the Bond Academy. And that is the weekend of April 24th at Bowie State University in Maryland. You can find out all the stuff you need to find out about the Bond Project at bondeducators.org online or on LinkedIn. You can just search the Bond Project.
Awesome, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And I'm glad you made the clarity around you and your organization centering Black male educators. And before we go even further, I want to ground, because it's Black History Month, I want to ground the remainder of our conversation through some data points. I'm going to share about 3 or 4 slides where we really walk through some history, because you and I both know, as do the people who are with us tonight who might be viewing later, that history is always present. You cannot get away from it. So here are some data points that are really, really important. There is a hidden cost to desegregation. And right? Tens of thousands of Black principals and classroom educators were pushed out after the Brown v. Board of Education legislation was signed. The estimates say somewhere between 38,000 to nearly 100,000 educators were displaced. And then the loss was concentrated where Black educators had been 35 to 50% of the teaching force. We champion the Brown v. Board of Education legislation because it advanced some things, it afforded some things. But on the back end of that, we had some loss. And the loss that we have is directly connected to what you just shared regarding Black male educators, you know?
Yeah, and I think about how folks often talk about like there was this push and pull in terms of when desegregation occurred, like it, were there good aspects and were there not, so there, I guess we could say, like, I guess the Supreme Court said that separate wasn't equal, right? So if
Right.
we weren't going to be integrated, we weren't going to have access.
That's right. We were not
I
going to
know
have that
folks,
access. Yeah, it was going to be
yeah,
very constrained. We know what it's all about, the constraints. And even now, when the constraints are not even in place in the same way, there's still issues with that, right? So there's
absolutely.
another piece of the puzzle right there. And so
And I
the
think
other
we're
thing
getting
is,
the word that like there was a certain group of folks once schools were considered, or once our educational system was considered progressive or progressing,
oh yeah,
there's a message given to folks implicitly or explicitly, you don't belong here.
exactly right. You don't belong here. So look at the echo here, right? The structural echo that we still live with. We have under 5% of all superintendents are Black. Principals range between 10 to 11%. Black teachers are about 6%. But here is the sticker: Black male teachers, 1 to 2%. That grounds your work in the most important and significant ways.
Yeah, our Latino brothers are saying the same thing, right? Like
Mhm.
we are even less represented
Less
in
represented.
the workforce, at the rank and file and the leadership executive levels as well. And when we started, the piece for me that is most frustrating with those data is when we began the bond project in 2013. We were planning and we started screaming out in different locations stuff that echoing what we heard from people like Sharif El Mekki in the fellowship
Mhm.
at the time, that became in part became the Center for Black Educator Development, where they were saying 2% Black men made up 2% of the teaching force, and we were screaming out 2% is not enough,
Right.
and that was 13 years ago,
13 years ago.
and we are still
Still
even fewer
fewer,
folks
fewer
are there.
folks, right?
5%.
We're seeing regression in the number of Black male educators. And, with this last data point is going to really shape the rest of our conversation. So I'm going to bring that up for us so we can see that right now. Same race mentoring improves achievement, belonging, and long term outcomes. Community based programs restore advocacy, cultural grounding, and leadership pathways. Modern initiatives like the Bond Project rebuild the pipeline, protection, and most of all, possibility once provided Black educators. So the question is, what is really significant if we ground this in two places? We ground it in the past and we bring it to the present. We know that in the past, we were just not able to really get the kinds of educational supports that we need. So we built our own, right? We built our own structures. And then through lots of different means, those structures have held in some places and then have been abated in other places. So, what is the significance of the work that you do at the Bond Project regarding mentorship and the teacher identity of Black male educators?
Yeah, I think often a bunch of us from the Bond Project, when we float around talking to folks, and well, I say when we move strategically to talk to engage with folks, so we're
Yes.
not just floating around
Right. I'm
hanging out.
floating around out here.
I should rephrase that. But we often get asked, why do we talk so much about identity, right?
Hmm.
And why do we talk so much about um, have people reflect so much about themselves in the work that we do before we start talking about students and other folks, and making changes there, right? That's a whole other subject about problematizing kids and families and not the system. But I heard it put well by Bobby Morgan, who's a principal in New Jersey, and he does a lot of consulting work as well. And he
Hmm.
said to me once that someone said to him, "It's like looking at the old school map of the mall when you're in the mall or when you're in the amusement park or somewhere, and you got to get from one place where you are to the place you want to go, but you can't give directions until you first see that sticker, right? That thing that
Mm,
says you are here, right? So
mm,
we have to figure out where we are first before we
right.
can figure out how we get to where we want to go. And so
Yeah.
we spend a lot of time having that conversation with folks at the outset of our work in different spaces. The other space is the conversations about identity. Like it's so important in schools because like it shapes how kids, it shapes how adults experience school way before like you start teaching things. They know
No.
if they are being represented in the work that they are doing, and
Mm.
they are clearly aware. I just listened to Dr. Sheldon Akins just 5 minutes ago before I joined, or 15 minutes ago before I joined your call, was helping him out with some stuff, and he said to a group like, we act like kids at 3 and 4 and 5 don't understand similarities and differences,
They 100% do. They
right? Yeah, we are showing
100%.
that.
Yeah, they know
Yeah.
that. They know the differences between anything, right? Because, and here's the thing, I used to, when I would give keynotes and things like that, the idea of knowing a difference or a similarity is not racially ascribed, it is a skill. You can either do the thing called tell the difference between or tell how similar things are. So the skill of doing that is a de-racialized skill. It's the
Yep.
content that
Yep.
determines whether the skill itself gets racialized. That's a different conversation.
That is
Of
it.
course, like, so of course a kid is going to be able to know that this jacket is blue and this one is brown. And
Yeah,
of course,
absolutely.
they can see that you are of one complexion and a person of a different complexion. It's not the noticing that's the challenge. The challenge is the meaning that is put inside the recognition of the difference.
Hmm. And these and this in-group out-group psychology that can
Yes,
result, right? And
absolutely.
so and again it's okay to say like I like people who like Cheerios like me,
Right.
right? Like
Exactly.
the
Right. Right.
folks do that work. Catherine Wynn in the Yale Baby Lab, they do that work about like do infants like other people who like the same snacks as them because we are wired for affinity, right? Around
Right.
folks that like us.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these other spaces where we get indoctrinated, we get raised and socialized, like it we do start to pile on those factors of race, of
Right.
gender, of language, of other kinds of identities, and they become our lived experiences that influence how we interact with folks. And in schools, that means opportunity,
Oh,
that means access, that
yes.
means discipline and restriction,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Like, and you can act like you can say all kids, we're here for all kids, and I don't see color and all that stuff. It doesn't make it true, no matter how many times you say it,
It
right?
doesn't. It
Yeah,
doesn't
and
make it
so
true.
if we don't operate like we know this, it's going to be invisible, sort of,
Sort of.
and
Right.
it's going to be inequitable,
Exactly.
certainly, right? And
Certainly.
so when we start talking about identity, then we can surface power issues, right? Then we can challenge some of those deficit narratives, and we can sort of like uplift folks and affirm folks' humanity. Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I think all those pieces are there, and we can still recognize like the neurological sort of underpinnings of us recognizing similarities and differences and us gravitating towards folks who may be similar and different than us in different ways. Like we can recognize all those things and still take steps to mitigate them and so that they don't harm folks, or we can leverage those things so that we can make our communities feel more inclusive. And I'll
And
say
that's the
one. Oh,
issue, right? That
mhm.
challenge of the inclusivity, right? One of the challenges, and you know this as well as I do, that a lot of times when black males are in school buildings, they are the disciplinarian, that they miss out on the opportunity to do work that is academic. And so they're seen through a much more narrowly constructed lens. So how do you make sure that the vestiges of power in history, where black men are seen in very pejorative ways, how can that movement, how can that understanding of black men translate into the present, where more opportunities for being academic, leading classrooms, not just gym, right? Like, let's not like be clear, all of my black male teachers were gym. Like, I had
Mm-hmm.
three of them, and they were all the gym teachers. I
Mm-hmm.
loved them, they were great. And yet, it would have been just as important to have a black male teacher as my psych teacher in high school, as my English teacher and my history teacher. So how do you in your work take that past that is present and challenge some of the ways in which our black male educators are entering or giving access to educational avenues?
Yeah, and there's a couple of different. There's a short-term sort of approach to it, and then there's the long game that we sometimes try to get folks to play. So, with respect to the long game, we are thinking, how can we help students, children,
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
male children of color, right, black and brown children? How can we help them see not only that education is cool, but that educators are cool,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that
Oh,
that
oh.
that is something to aspire to become.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
folks would say, they say, oh, that this is school teachers don't get paid well, and all these kinds of things. Right? We should get paid more. Educators should get paid more. I'm gonna say that, but I make a very good living.
I was going to say, when I taught in New Jersey, I taught in a district that was the 25th highest paid district in the nation. And
Mhm.
so there are places in the country where teachers definitely are making what would be considered a living wage and even more than a living wage. So yeah, I agree with you. I'm glad you brought that up. A hundred
Yeah.
percent.
And so
Should get
sometimes
paid
it's that.
more and
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's that change in the narrative for children and their parents
mm-hmm.
around what educators can be, right? And sometimes that's awareness building campaigns like Curtis Valentine has the Real Men Teach campaign, right?
Yes.
And they go out and do
Oh, I think we lost you a little bit. I'm
we
gonna have you
say
go back.
that in one
Hold on, Damon. I think we lost you a little bit. I'm gonna have you go back for a second. You said Curtis with his Real Men Teach campaign. Go back for that for a second.
So, like Curtis Valentine with the Real Men Teach campaign, they
Mm-hmm.
raise awareness around how changing that narrative about, yes, we want men to be in education. Not only do we need you, you belong here, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
difference to just telling somebody we need you, come by, and saying,
Right.
oh, this is a place for you, right? So
Right.
we make sure we do that. And one of Bond's theories of action is in terms of that long game piece, if schools were better places for children of color, boys of color in particular, then more of them will become teachers,
Agreed.
right?
A
And so
100% agreed.
that is where that's the long game piece of this. The
Mm-hmm.
other part of that short game piece in the Bond's theory of action is if schools were better places for men of color, then more of us would stay teaching.
Ooh,
And
because
that's the short game,
retention, yes.
right?
You
And
can
that's
come
the
in the
short
door, right? Get them in the
term.
door,
Mhm.
but there are some factors that have to be put in place, some structures, some beliefs that recruiting is step one, right?
Absolutely.
Recruiting is step one, hiring is step two, retention is the step three. You've got to be able to do all three of those. And you have to be able to deeply examine your environment, your learning environment, not just at the building level, but at the district level, right? That would
Absolutely.
to make sure that you are creating the ways in which people of color, and right now we're centering black male educators, that black male educators are going to want to stay in your place.
That's it. And you mentioned some of that, right? Opportunities. So opportunities to demonstrate instructional leadership,
Instructional leadership,
right?
right?
And not just social emotional leadership,
Mm-hmm.
which is important, not just relationship building, right? Like John King calls like some of those extra duties that are assigned.
Our
John
tax,
King calls that invisible
the black
tax. Those
tax.
things which are, right? That is certainly there. But also there are spaces or strategies that school districts could use for when we're thinking about mentorship and the way they can leverage what we know about community or our search for community, right? We were hardwired to want to belong in groups. And so oftentimes school districts assign
Oh, wait, we lost you again. Go back one more time. They often assign.
oftentimes school districts assign mentors to their new teachers, right? Which is a great practice on the
Mhm.
surface. What they don't consider is race and gender and ethnicity often
Right,
in
right.
that assignment. Sometimes because they're afraid. Some states probably outlaw it. We won't mention all of those types of folks or those places. We love all y'all. We want all y'all in the family. All y'all invited to the cookout. But
Maybe. You, I'm a
yeah,
citizen.
yeah.
No,
I can't give all y'all pass. That's my bad. My
no.
bad. I
They're
can't give
invited to
them.
the
Can't give
party,
them.
not the cookout.
There we go. There we go. And so but Brian Cadogan said once he's a bond member who teaches internationally. He's actually in Vietnam right now working, and he said back in 2014 or 15, he said that my white female mentor, she's a very nice person and she's very knowledgeable. And when I talk to her, she can hear me,
Mm-hmm.
but she can't feel me. Right?
Wow.
And I need to be in a space where people feel me.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we can that's a big piece of that retention piece. So we're talking about leverage community.
Mm-hmm.
That is certainly the case.
Yeah, that is the power of our community bonds, like really being able to do this and making sure that when we're looking for educators of all walks of life, and particularly Black male educators, that we are situating them within environments, learning environments that see them, feel them, and honor them. And one of the things I do every week is we give
Absolutely.
power moves. We give 3 power moves. So I'm going to share some power moves with you. And I want you to tell me what your thoughts are about these power moves that we're going to share. So, power move number 1, we want folks to protect identity as a condition for learning. And
Mm,
here's what we think it looks like in practice. Notice where students must separate identity in order to succeed. But the same thing for the educator, right? Ensure that the curriculum and the routines authentically affirm who students are, and then give the educator space when they don't. Right? Critical
mm,
to being a culturally responsive and responsible educator is being able to have the curricular autonomy to move within your curriculum. And then we want to, the other move is to make identity visible and instructional, not invisible. What are your thoughts?
I'm right there with you. So as I'm jotting down some notes, as my brain is spinning as you're talking, the first power move that notice where students must separate identity. Sometimes I do this activity with groups of people, groups of adults, where I say, "Hey, we talk about that wheel of identity."
Mm-hmm.
Kimberly Crenshaw's for the intersectionality piece, and looking at any one of those wheel of identity models, and tell people pick the 5 that best represent who you are. Right. And then they're there and they got, okay, I got my 5. Okay, narrow that down now to 3. Oh, that's so hard.
All
That's
right,
so
right,
hard. Right. Narrow that down to 1 now.
right.
I
Mm-hmm.
can't just come representing one thing. Like, how am I going to do that? We ask our babies to do that every
Every day.
single day.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day. You are distilled down to being an Hispanic, a Latino. You are distilled down to being a black boy.
Yep.
Right? So same thing with some of your colleagues. That's where they feel seen as just that black man who can just connect to those black people.
Right. Right. That narrow down, right? To authentically affirm the scope of who you are. Let's go to power move
Mhm.
number 2. Design mentorship as restoration. Treat mentorship as retention infrastructure, not just programming. Create structured, identity affirming mentorship for educators. Provide space for truth, community, and safety.
Yeah. And
Yep.
makes me think I'm with you on all of those things, sis. Every single one. And What I would add too is I'm thinking about making it restorative. I
Yeah.
think it is preventative as well, right?
Restorative career.
So
Yeah.
again,
Oh, we lost you again. Go back.
when we think about it being, we're good. Sorry.
Yes. That's okay.
So we think about it being preventative. We think about it being it inoculates people sometimes from these systems
Hmm.
of white supremacy that they have to encounter when they leave these spaces with us.
Right.
So being able to say, like some people say about bond, when in some of the districts that we have a presence in, some of the guys say, I don't need to come to every bond event that we have. I just need to know that you're there.
Wow.
Like,
That's it. Yeah.
knowing that I have a place is
Hmm.
enough to help me make it through this next year,
Right.
right? In this district or this next week. So that is definitely there. We also make often when we're in bond activities, we have what we call a cipher, where we tell everybody else get out the room, right?
Yeah.
You get out the room, it's us now, we're talking. And we just circle up, everybody face each other, and we have conversations like barbershop talk is what we call it, where guys
Yeah.
just get to say
What they
whatever's on
want.
their mind and
Hmm.
get validated.
Yeah.
Now
Being
we
seen.
get held accountable too.
Right, right. You can't do one without the other, right?
Yep.
We want to be able to be responsible to our core and to our responsibilities and to our obligations. And so absolutely. Here's the last power move. Treat representation as educational power. Identify where Black educators, especially Black men, are lost or unsupported. Build pathways that retain and elevate, not just recruit, which we talked about. Align decisions to representation is structural, not symbolic. So that alignment of the representation needs to be structural, not that rubber stamp. You know what I mean? And we want this so that it restores your advocacy, your protection, and possibility. Thoughts?
Yep, no doubt. And like I think about that structural component to the power move, where you'll have stuff like Ivory told us to say, like we're gonna do stuff to people, or not just Ivory told us that, but we're gonna do stuff to people, or we're gonna do stuff with people.
With people,
Right? Like
right?
you don't
Mhm.
have any, like it's either one or the other. And
Right.
so you need to build in those structures where Black men are in the planning, or in the need, even in the needs assessment when you determine what the priorities are for planning,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
And now we're going to be in there with the implementation, and we're going to be in there with the evaluation. You need to have those voices all throughout, um, all the practices you're doing, the systems you're building. I'm
Well,
with you on that, sis.
well, before we go to our gem for the journey, this is the quickest 30 minutes of my whole time. This has been a fantastic conversation. I promised you 30 to 35 minutes on a Thursday night, but I want to show you what came in the mail for me today.
Hey,
I just
everybody's doing what you got to do. That's
That's
the
right.
assignment right there.
That's right. That's right. So I always share every week a gem for the journey. And what we've been leaning into, folks, again, number one thing, hit that subscribe button. If you are resonating with the conversations that Damon and I had tonight, these are the kinds of conversations we have every week here at Let's Talk Power Live. If you are interested in taking your understanding of your power center, how you think through power, how power really is shaping your decision making, and I promise you it is. Go ahead and click that, scan that QR code. This is going to take you to our Instructional Power 101. It is our foundational learning environment for you, completely self guided, because instructional power is used to build agency. And one of the people that took the course, she said to me, she said, I didn't realize how much my historical understanding of power is shaping my decisions, but she wouldn't have known that had she not taken the course. And because she
Mm.
took this course, she's now able to restructure her language, to see her environment through broader, deeper eyes. So go ahead and enjoy this gem for the journey. Scan the QR code or type in that link right there. I think I'll put it right here. Is it going to show up? No, we're good. And then let's just recap, Damon, really quickly. Identity has to be protected. Mentorship has always been protection for us. It's been survival,
Absolutely.
always.
Absolutely.
The representation and educational power is got to be real and not symbolic. And then what systems once removed, leaders must now intentionally rebuild.
Amen.
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 Well, I already told y'all, if you want to get a hold of Dr. Damon's book, please make sure you get a hold of it. The Anti-Racist School Leader, What to Know, Say, and Do. It's about action, not just words, because we need to watch what people do, not just what they say. The information about how to get to him is right there, damanharris.com, bondeducators.org. Please go ahead and get contact with him, and then get your copy of Understanding Your Instructional Power. It's available. We'd love to have you join the journey with us. But then next week, we got Bobby Mills coming to give us a conversation about assistant principals. So she's going to be joining us soon on the show. Looking forward to having her here. Well, Damon, thank you so much for being my first Black History Month guest. You kicked us off in grand fashion, and we're going to have you back to keep going on the conversation. Maybe we'll bring the whole Bond Project team in to have
Hey, let's do it.
Let's do
Let's
it. All
do it.
right, sir. Have a great night. Talk to you soon.
Bye, sis. Peace,
Bye-bye.
family.